Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but as always, we want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director, or I've got a direct connection to. You should be using them too. So listen to our shout out, take about 3 minutes, then listen to our interview, and then go visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support. You know, as a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to work for all of our teams, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches, our athletes, even our parents just loved all the tools that Huddle sent us. Join the 8 million users. Go to huddle.com, make your school a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. It's a great way to showcase your school record boards or your school's Hall of Fame, or simply share your school's unique history and your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, uploading rosters. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every day? Home Campus will do these better and faster. It's going to give you a lot more time back in your schedule. Go to homecampus.com. That's it. Homecampus.com to get started. We want to say thanks to Gipper. You know, social media is where the kids and a lot of the parents are these days. And if you're not creating content, you're really missing out. The team at Gipper will have you creating world-class graphics in seconds, and it's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made easy. We want to say thanks to Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and ended up with little, if any, return? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school, tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We want to thank Ohio University's online Master's in Athletic Administration. This is a 20-month, very affordable master's program that also allows you to complete 11 NIAAA leadership training courses. It's also going to create a national network in athletic administration that you're going to have connections with all across the country. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA to get started. The Ohio University Online Masters. We want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and you can schedule a live web demo. See their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com to find out more information. And we want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic surveys are about connections, and they're going to connect you to your parents, your student athletes, your coaches. They're going to connect you to the group you already hear from, the complainers and gripers, but they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And that's tremendously valuable information to have, especially when you're talking to a frustrated parent, maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create that custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going all the way up to Wisconsin today, and we're going to be speaking with Shawn Groshek. Shawn is a registered athletic administrator. He's also the director of athletics at Adams Friendship High School. That's in Friendship, Wisconsin. And like most ADs, he wears a lot of hats. He is the current president of the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association. So we got a lot to talk about today. Shawn Groshek, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Really been looking forward to it. A lot of, 16 years of this experience as athletic director in a small school. Athletic director is just the tip of the iceberg. You have your physical education teacher, health education teacher, and then, of course, I always call it the jack of all trades. If someone needs a question answered, they know who to find. They're looking for me because I've been around. I know pretty much where everything is and where to find that cordless mic, and it's usually in the top shelf on the left, just inside the sound room. So appreciate it.
And we've said this many times, athletic directors, by their nature, by their DNA, if you will, they're wired to solve problems, to, fix challenges. So excited to hear. It's springtime, which is the busiest time for any athletic director. So let's go and jump right in. Shawn, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us up through your own high school and college days. But what's the Shawn Groshek origin story?
The origin story, I'll start with born in 1977, so old school, not quite a boomer, that Gen X generation. Grew up in the countryside of central Wisconsin, just outside of Stevens Point, Wisconsin. Like I said, grew up in a family of five, dairy farm. Always found ourselves chores, whether it be, didn't grow up actually on the physical farm. The family owned the farm. I was biking to the farm. I was getting a quick ride to the farm or back from the farm, growing up, and the work ethic, the get the job done, because that's what needs to happen when you're a dairy farmer. That was instilled in me really early, and which leads right into the AD role, because just like you said, we're problem solvers. Got to make sure that gets get taken care of. Went to Amherst High School in Wisconsin. It's a Division III school, which is a small school. I had about 71 classmates. Three-sport athlete, cross country, wrestling, and track. Was a three-sport all-state athlete my sophomore year in those three sports. Junior year, had a serious neck injury, never cleared to wrestle again. Doctor wouldn't clear me, so I just went from becoming really the Olympic hopeful wrestler, of course, like most kids have, and then changed it to just focusing on cross country and track. Went to Concordia University in Mequon, which is just north of Milwaukee, Division III school, and dual sported there, cross country and track. I was a 9-time conference, first team all conference runner in cross country and distance for track. 9 times sounds like I was there a long time. It was only 4 years, but when you have the multiple aspects and multiple conferences as well that we were part of. And then as I started going through my educational role, I started as pre-physical therapy, and I got a 1.5 years in, and I'm like, I had the grades. I had a 3.7. I'm like, I can get into the PT school. But I said it to myself, and I say it out loud, and it sounds so bad that I actually say it, but I said out loud, I don't want to work with old people the rest of my life and only work on what's wrong. So I went from physical therapy and I changed to physical education. So of course, trying to get, the prehab in there to get it to, so the kids and the students understand, how to stay healthy. And for the last 24 years, been teaching in education, physical education, health education, and then 16 years as an athletic director here at Adams Friendship High School. So central Wisconsin, 50 minutes from where I grew up, just a little bit south. And I'll say it this way, I'm 25 minutes north of Wisconsin Dells. Everyone knows where Wisconsin Dells is in Wisconsin. So, yeah, and loving every minute of it.
Wow. We've heard this many times, people that, grew up on farms, or, my dad was a contractor. So my brothers and we grew up in a construction family. And so, yeah, that work ethic, you learn it very quickly. Um, I want to talk about cross country in Wisconsin. When did the first snows hit? And, were you guys out running, maybe even during wrestling season? Did your coach send you out in the snow to train?
I'll be honest. A lot of sporting ventures, high school and college, I've watched on ESPN the features and whatnot, and they talk about it was Brandon, Florida, Brandon wrestling, and going out and training outside and running outside. I'm thinking to myself, that don't happen in Wisconsin in the winter. Um, so cross country specifically, funny story. I would have been a freshman in 1991. First weekend in November, that's first Saturday, as always, state cross country meet. Went to bed. Let's see, it would have been, I think it was like 65 degrees the night before the state cross country meet. Everyone knew there was a front coming in. Everyone knew it was going to be cold. But when everyone woke up at 5 in the morning, there was a foot of snow on the ground. It's going to change things a little bit. They actually had to delay the state cross country meet a week just so that we could, of course, fit all of the runners on the course and have the trails ready. It warmed up a little bit. There was still a little bit of snow on the ground, but they had delayed it a week. That was the only time in the WIA history that the state cross country meet had to be delayed. Normally, of course, you run in the snow, you run in the rain, but when you just instantly get a foot of snow in 12 hours, you really can't just avoid that.
Well, I'm picturing that. I know we coached my wife's career coach, and we were in Missouri for a few years at a small college. But she took this would have been '94. She took the women's cross country team to the NAI national meet, and I think it was in Oshkosh,
Yep.
Wisconsin, and so there was some snow on the ground there. Uh, Crazy stuff. I'd love to ask this question. Can you think back to a time, maybe as a high school student athlete, or maybe during your college days, where at the moment it didn't seem like much, but now looking back as a coach, as an athletic director, you can point to that moment and say, "Hey, that was significant." Anything stick out for you?
Absolutely. I tell the story to high school kids all the time because the power that coaches have on individuals. Um, like I said, I qualified for state cross country meet, state wrestling tournament, and state track and field meet my sophomore year. Placed 8th in cross country. I placed 6th at 119 in wrestling, and I placed let's see, my sophomore year would have been 8th in the 2 mile in the state. And I never did it for the accolades. Never, not once. It was honestly, I was doing it to avoid chores, so I didn't have to go home, and just had fun. And as I became a senior, you know, physical therapy was my first plan, and there was only 3 options. It was UW La Crosse, UW Madison, and Concordia and Mequon. And the first two, UW Madison and UW La Crosse at the time, were just nationally ranked in cross country. And I'm thinking to myself, I enjoy doing it, but I don't want it to become my life. And I went and toured Concordia, and I met one of the runners, Justin Marthaler, who was 3 years older than I was, and met the coach, FP Markel. And coach shook my hand, and he kind of stepped back and looked me up and down, and he goes, "You could be good." And never thought anything of it at the time. It's just kind of like, that's an odd way to introduce yourself to someone who you don't know. And decided to go to Concordia, go through that first year. And after every race, I would finish. I think my freshman year, I think it was 4th or 5th on the team. And every time Groshek, you could be good. And it was just like, I never needed the affirmation. I never wanted the high accolades. It wasn't, like I said, it was just, I did it because I enjoyed it and I was pretty good at it. But looking back at that, taking the uncomfortability, there we go, that's a word, out of the situation, coming, 2 hours away from home, not being in the confines of the dairy farm and all of that, and having that affirmation, like, hey, coach got my back. He sees some talent, strive for it. And like I said, I currently tell kids all the time. You could be really good in this class. You could be really good at this sport. You just, now I have to put a little bit more to it. You have to apply yourself. You better practice, eat better, get more sleep, whatever it is. But his was, you could be good. And I'll be honest, I never heard him say it to anyone else. He probably did. I just never heard it.
Right.
But that instilled that belief of you could be good. You could be a good cross country runner. You could be a good track athlete. It was, you could be good. And that has hit home because, well, now I have three daughters myself, and just using that phrase and a little bit more to it. It wasn't an accolade. It wasn't the success. It was just that belief, and it coming from coaching, coming to the athlete. So,
Right. Oh, yeah. While you were telling that story, I was getting chills. I had a very similar experience with my college track coach. Very, very cool stuff. Hey, for our listeners, we're visiting today with Shawn Groshek. He's a registered athletic administrator. He's the director of athletics at Adams Friendship High School in Friendship, Wisconsin. Also the president of the Wisconsin AD Association. We're going to hear more about both of those in a minute, but let's take our first break. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Huddle for their support of the podcast. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I wanted a platform that was going to work for all of our teams, and Huddle came through like a champ. Our coaches, our student athletes, even our parents just loved all the tools that Huddle provided that enhanced our coaches' ability to coach our kids at the highest level. Go to huddle.com. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. Go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com. Take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's a great way to show off your school record boards for all the teams, for all the sports, or your school's Hall of Fame, or simply share your school's unique history and your proudest moments. Website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Check them out today.
and Jake, I really appreciate that sponsorship, Huddle. You've been utilizing Huddle for the last 4 years. Like you said, you got everything coaches want, everything ADs want, live streaming, Huddle TV, the analysis and the breakdowns. I couldn't be happier with Huddle. So I'm glad they're a sponsor of this podcast.
I'm so glad to hear that. And as I shared, as a football coach, I knew all about Huddle, and I was a little bit, I guess concerned if the other coaches would like it. And they just loved it. I remember our volleyball coaches, our basketball coaches, they'd be in the gym programming the cameras and everything. So you mentioned streaming. Just real quick, how has that worked out for your school? Have you gotten good feedback on that?
Um, Absolutely, yes. I'm thinking of how to frame that. In the town in Adams Friendship, we are a very land rich, people poor district, very large. It's from top to bottom. It's a 45-minute ride to get from corner to corner. Country roads. There are plenty of times where grandma and grandpa, sometimes even mom and dad, they don't even they can't get in, whatever it is, weather or just time frame. So they really enjoy the live streaming, the capability to be able to just watch from home or wherever they might be at, for that matter, to be able to catch all the action that they want. So
Oh,
it's
guys,
outstanding.
thanks for sharing that. I know our folks at our friends at Huddle will appreciate that too. For listeners, one more time, our guest is Shawn Groshek. He's the athletic director at Adams Friendship High School, and that's in Friendship, Wisconsin. Shawn, you took us up through your college experience. Love to do a deeper dive on some of those stories. Share, if you can, your journey post-college. Many of us follow that path of teacher and coach before, as I like to say, coming over to the other side of the desk. So what was your journey that brought you to becoming the AD at Adams Friendship?
So graduated May of 2000. Yeah, 2000. And with the physical education degree, worked to get my health minor, because at the time it was just some additional classes. I needed two other classes to get my health minor. And also a minor in athletic coaching. And had a couple small schools, even religious schools, jobs pop up throughout that summer. And then it would have been the first week in August. Got a phone call from Tom Beaversdorf, principal at Adams Friendship Middle School. Said, "Hey, Shawn, you want to come down for an interview?" I'm, "Oh, sure, why not? When are you thinking? How about in 2 hours?" Sure. So got home from baling hay, showered off, got all the chaff off me. Suit, or not suit, shirt, tie, dress pants, Sunday best, of course. Drove down and had the interview. And very interesting. Tom was a very interesting, but yet very direct individual. You know, you're a principal of middle school. Let's be honest. All of us go back to our middle school days. And I kid you not, he invites me in. It's just him, and into his office. And thanks, Shawn. Thanks for coming. Handshake. Hey, have a seat. I sit down. And as I'm sitting down, he's shutting the door behind me. And before he even sits down, he shuts the door and he goes, "Shawn, let's just start right off the bat." He goes, "What are you going to do the first time a kid comes up to you and says, F you?" I mean, he says it just flat out. And he looks at me to see my response. And I said, "Well, I would hope I'd have the support of the administration of however I decide to handle it, whether it's, okay, I can't rationalize with you, so I'm going to send you right to the office. Or if I have a relationship with this kid, to be able to at least talk this kid off the ledge of like, what's going on, where, maybe it's just a bad day or something happened prior to, those 12, 13 and 14-year-old hormones, who knows what's going through them at the time." And he sat down and we finished the interview, probably, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes, went into a different interview. That interview went with the associate principal, nowhere near that type of questioning. And then I got done with that one. He's like, Ron Betcher was the assistant. And he said, "Are you interested in coaching?" I said, "Sure." "So what you got?" He goes, "Well, we're currently looking for one coach, his head wrestling coach." I said, "Oh, really? Imagine that." He goes, "Has no bearing with the job." I said, "Okay, I got it." And so I drove 1 mile to the high school and sat down with the AD and principal at the time, had a conversation in probably half an hour, and drove home. And on my way home, Tom Beaversdorf called my mother, because of course, no cell phone. I'm living at home. My mom picks up the phone and she's like, "Hello." And is Tom Beaversdorf by chance is Shawn home? She's like, "No, he's at an interview." He's like, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, he's about an hour away." And he goes, "Well, have him give me a call when he comes back." I said, "Okay." So I get home and my mother tells me I had a phone call. I give Tom a call back. He picks up the phone. "Hello, Tom, this is Shawn Groshek." "Yep." He's like, "I would like to offer you the job." I'm like, "Oh, perfect." And we discussed it. It'll be 6th grade physical education, health grade, or health, 7th grade health. There we go. If I could talk. And first day of new teacher orientation, he comes up to me, taps me on the shoulder, and he kind of leans in and whispers to me. He goes, "As soon as you answered the first question, I knew I was hiring you." And I said to him, I go, "What'd you waste my time for the other 2 hours for?" He goes, "It's just protocol." So at that point, got the teaching job and the coaching job. And I was head wrestling coach for 8 years, as well as the teaching, of course. And then after that 8th year, we were kind of successful within the team, building a program, state wrestler, state champs. And the superintendent at the time pulls me in and says, "Hey, would you be interested in becoming the athletic director?" And I'll be honest, at the time, I'm like, "Sure, I'm interested." Because that's what we do as educators. What are you going to put on our plate? And then from there, got the job, and I haven't looked back since.
I love those interview stories because, again, I think many of us had very similar experiences. Let's talk about the AD position, transitioning to that. You'd been a successful coach. You probably were the product of a successful program. So you had an idea of what being the AD was like. What was something that maybe surprised you about the position? And obviously the AD position has changed over the years, but what was maybe something that surprised you and something that you said, "Hey, I was born to do this"?
So the surprise probably was, and I always say I don't want to disrespect anyone because I don't, and I'm sure at some point it does. But as a product of cross country wrestling and track and field in central Wisconsin, there's not a whole lot of glory in those sports, right? You go out, you're running hard, you're wrestling hard, you're doing as best you can, try to beat that stopwatch, beat the opponent across from you, and then it's over and it's done. And there isn't a whole lot of fanfare, right? Cross country, you run past your mom and dad 2 times, you hear them yell once, and you're done, right? Cross country or track, just the circles. And then wrestling, of course, just you and your opponent. And that one probably has the most fanfare out of the three. But transitioning into the coaching and then to the AD, it was amazing to me how, as an AD, I had to take it and change it to coaches, take off your blinders. There's more than just your sport. These kids are more than just your kids during the fall, the winter, the spring. They do other things. And to pass that, like I never growing up on a farm. What do I need to get done? What do I need to do? Right? It was never that when I was a coach. It was, hey, you're with me during this time, November to February. Okay, great. What are you doing in the fall? What are you doing in the spring? What are you doing in the summer to keep yourself getting better? And it's not a shot at those coaches, but that's not how I looked at coaching. But realizing, okay, so I'm going to have people like me, okay, that see all of it. Then there's going to be people on the other side of the spectrum where they're worried about what they're doing at the moment, and that it's transactional. I'm very transactional. I'm going to get this job done versus the transformational where it's all encompassing. We're doing every little thing to make this child, this young adult, the best we can make them. So that was probably my biggest, I don't want to say it wasn't a struggle. It was just like having the conversation with the coach in the office, and then they walk out and just kind of like, did I just hear that type stuff? And it wasn't necessarily bad. It's just, wow, they're coming from a different angle.
Yeah, and I don't think that's an uncommon situation for ADs, new or veteran, is helping coaches, coaching the coaches to understand, hey, it's in your case, it's not Adam's Friendship basketball or Adam's Friendship baseball. It's Adam's Friendship high school. Okay. And you're part of our team here. You're a position. So you're not the program, you're part of the team. Great stuff.
I know it was after probably my second year. I gave coaches, like coaching polo, right? And we're the Green Devils. Okay. Now, a lot of people think Green Devils, what? And there's a long story behind that. But anyways, it is a logo of a devil. Matter of fact, I'll just stand up real quick.
I like it.
There we go. There's our Green Devil. Okay. So, but when I gave them that polo, I didn't put, a football or anything like that. I put Green Devil Athletics. And that was probably the first time they saw that, because it's, like I said, it is way more important to see the whole than just your, success in basketball or your success, on the volleyball court. So, yeah, it was a little bit of a transition, but wouldn't change a bit of it.
Well, great stuff. I just love it. We're going to take another quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to have you share what we call some best practices. And you certainly just shared one right there, getting coaches on board to become transformational rather than transactional. But let's take that break. We'll be back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Home Campus is a platform that you're going to use every single day for things like scheduling, uploading rosters, communicating with your coaches, your parents, your kids, your state. How about student athlete eligibility and clearance? Who doesn't do that every single day? Home Campus is going to do all of those things and more. It's going to do them better. It's going to do it faster. It's going to give you a lot more time back in your schedule. To get started, just go to homecampus.com. That's it. Go to homecampus.com. We'd also like to say thank you to Gipper. You know, kids and even their parents are on social media these days. And if you're not promoting your athletes and your programs with social media posts, you're really missing out. Go to Gipper.com. Their team will have you creating world-class marketing content for your school in seconds. And it's so easy, even I can do it. Gipper's used and trusted by over 4,000 high school and college programs across the country. It's professional graphic design made simple. Go to Gipper.com to get going. We also want to thank Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and ended up with little, if any, return on investment? Stop right here. Go to snapraise.com. Hands down, the best online fundraising platform out there. We used it at our school with tremendous success. Our coaches loved it. Our parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you found it. Go to snapraise.com. Start raising money today.
Yeah, going back to again, one of your sponsors with Gipper. Eric Plitzwhite is our president-elect, but he's also our information director, and he raves about Gipper. He has social media posts. I bet you he's putting out at least 3 a week for the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association. We affectionately call it WADA. And I know the ADs around the Midwest love it when we come around because it's WADA. It's not IADA, DD, and all those different ones. So, Eric puts out those Gipper graphics. Absolutely loves it. We always get great reviews from people from around the U.S. when they see our posts. So, from Eric Plitzwhite and WADA, great job, Gipper. Keep it up.
Oh, and I can attest to that. Obviously with the podcast, we're on social media quite a bit, and I see those WADA posts, promoting your athletes, promoting your teams, promoting sportsmanship. It's great. And I know your sponsors probably love, your state sponsors probably love that you have that social media presence. Very cool. Mm-hmm. All right. One of the things that we try to do with this podcast is the idea of sharing best practices. And I know you've got some to share. You've already shared some, but before we get going, I want to hear the history, the story, the origin story behind the Green Devils.
Okay. So back in the early 1900s, when the school district of when the joint school district of Adams Friendship was going to be coming about, it originally was just, your pocket one room schoolhouses. And like I said, the district was a community of many of those, like 25 of them. And then when they decided to joint it up in the 40s to make it a little bit more easier, we became the Adams Friendship Joint School District. And of course, once you had your high school, then of course you had to come up with a nickname. Well, of course, and I don't know how many people know, but in sandy soil, there's a lot of sand burrs that come up, and anytime you walk through them, they stick to your clothing, they pinch you, they stick to your skin, all those things. So of course, hey, the Adams Friendship sandburrs, well, that was shot down real quick, probably good. But then there was a factory south of town, and by south of town is like 10 miles out of town, and made very durable combustion engines. And the headers on those combustion engines were green. And what that turned into is, hey, what you got there? It's like, oh, we got that Green Devil, that little Green Devil. And that bugger is durable and it runs forever. He goes, hey, we can beat it up. And as the story goes, it spread that the Green Devil, of course, the engine, just became synonymous with the area. So when that came about, they're like, oh, the Green Devils. Okay. And then let's go back to the 50s. Well, anytime you use the word devil, you're thinking of Satan, the opposite of God, however you want to look at it. So, of course, the depiction of the Green Devil became a face of a devil. And looking back in hindsight, I don't know how intimidating a green motor would have been, but it is what it is. About every 10 years, it comes up that the religious groups in town, really we should get away from the devil, demonic and satanic and all those things. But the community really stands strong behind the Green Devil. It's one of those things that it's a rallying cry for the community. And yeah, it's one of those things where, like I said, instead of an actual Green Devil face, a big old green engine, I don't know how you would arrange it on a shirt as a polo. I don't know how that would have looked. So, but yep, Adams Friendship Green Devils. I think we're one of 3 in the U.S. I know there's a Green Devil I believe it's in Connecticut. But I've also been told there's one out west too. So one of
Okay.
the
No, it's the first one I've heard of. And again, I grew up and started my career in Oregon. There's a school that we played. They were the Red Devils. I know there's a lot of Red Devils out there, but no, very, very interesting. I love the history and how you've embraced the community. Very cool. All right, best practices. What are some things, turning that magnifying glass on Adam's friendship? What are some things that when you look at your program, you can say that you're particularly proud of? And maybe these are initiatives that have been in place for a long time, or maybe it's something that you brought and developed over the years. You already talked about, having coaches think in a program perspective, but what are some best practices you can share with our listeners?
so having the 16 years of experience, there's a lot of things that have come. I don't want to say come and gone, but come and been altered. Those types of things. Um, but anytime we can celebrate our successes, we're in a community. It's low socioeconomic. Some of these kids, they don't know what a true house and homestead looks like. In celebrating whether it be just straight up academic success, whether maybe it's athletic success, maybe it's a combination of both, maybe it's just the fact that he or she is graduating this Friday. There's a lot of different things, and we'd be able to celebrate those things. How minor it might seem to the athletic director, to a coach, to a teacher, to the principal that maybe went to a Division I school, right? But just getting to that to meet them where they're at and just get them a step better. When it comes to best practices, no recognition is too small because of the fact that it might be the saving grace in that kid's upbringing, whether it's a 6th grade graduation, promotion from junior to senior year. I mean, there's so many different things that are going on in their lives that it's a matter of trying to make them the best person they can become. And being around for 24 years and hearing from the graduates, whether it be the athletic graduates that went through that were in their sports and just they were the talk of the town in high school, or maybe it's just those kids that just seem to kind of skirt by. Seeing them for where they're at and where they can get to, and showing them that they don't necessarily have to fall into where they grew up. They can, I always tell them, graduate and move on, leave. Not because Adams is such a bad place, but just see what else is out there. And if you don't like it, hey, come on back. We're never going to shut you out. So the best practice of just the connection with your student athletes, with your students, depending if you're teaching or whatnot, that connection is way more important than that 4.0 GPA or that all-state recognition, because that connection is what will keep that kid, that individual. Heck, who knows? They may give you a call 2 years down the road wanting a letter of recommendation or inviting you to a wedding. I mean, those are the types of things that I take the most pride in, is because I can open up my phone right now and I have over 600 phone numbers of, just my contacts, but over 200 of them are those kids that I've had in class, had on my teams, that I've helped along the way from, some really tragic instances all the way to the, state champions that I coached in wrestling. Those connections and that the connections with those individuals and helping them get to where they are today, and then you get that text message, hey, we just had our firstborn, we'd love to see you, type stuff. And it's just like, that's to me, that's what teaching is all about. A lot of people say, well, the evaluation process, when I bring coaches in, you talk specifically best practices. The connection I have with that coach is the role modeling what I want them to do with their student athletes. We're going to have a conversation in the postseason evaluation. I'm doing the air quotes because it's not really, it's really a self-evaluation on what they believe their performance was. Now, will there be stuff from me if it's bad, needs to improve? Of course there will be. But I want them to realize it before it's just me saying, hey, this isn't working. And I always ask the question, are you sure you want to do this again? Not because I don't think you're good, but because of the fact that you got to be bought in, because if you're half in, half out, guess what? The kids are going to see it and it isn't going to go well. So there's a lot of different, but I would go directly with the connections, student athletes, staff members, and coaches. It's what it's all about when it comes to education-based athletics and just education in general.
Oh, without a doubt. And I think I've spent time in my career at big schools. Most of my career was spent at smaller schools and here in Florida, private schools. But I think that the connections that you talk about, I'm not going to say they are better, but I think they're more possible in the small school setting because you have those opportunities to meet and connect with so many different kids. Great stuff. We're going to do this at the end of the podcast, Shawn, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or just add you to their network. And listeners, I think you got a great resource here. What's the best way that they can get a hold of Shawn Groshek?
Well, the easiest way would just be my email, sgroshek, Groshek 9 at gmail.com. If you want to listen, my wife always chuckles when I say this. If you want to listen, I have I produce my own podcast. It's Wisconsin Grown, Nationally Known. It's Wisconsin kids that grew up in the time frame of, or the frame of Wisconsin, and made their name nationally, whether it be, I've student athletes, Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer for the Cleveland Browns, Alec Ingold, who's currently playing fullback for the Miami Dolphins. And then I've had Glenn Murray, who's a golf course operations manager in Lake Geneva, southern Wisconsin. I covered all, and that's again kind of just like this. It's kind of just an outlet to be able to share our stories of how we got where we got to, and maybe the steps moving forward. So, yeah, definitely email. Like again, the podcast was Wisconsin Grown, Nationally Known, and heck, you could Google my name, and during the summers, I even caddy on a golf course. So if you want to come up in Sand Valley Golf Course, Central Wisconsin, look me up. Absolutely, I'll hit you up. So,
all right, I love it. We'll give out that contact information again at the end of the show. Shawn Groshek, in addition to serving as the athletic director at Adams Friendship, he's also the president of the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association. And in our next segment, we're going to let Shawn talk about all things WADA. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We'd also like to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. I don't think I need to say anything more, but I'm going to. Go to hometownticketing.com, and their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for athletic events, but things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We'd also like to thank the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. This affordable 20-month program focuses exclusively on interscholastic athletic administration. And when you finish the online courses, you're not only going to have your master's degree, you'll have 11 NIAAA leadership training courses to go towards your RAA or your CAA. You're also going to be part of a nationwide network in athletics with connections across the country. To get started, all you have to do is go to ohio.edu/WADA. ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters. And we want to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check, and you can schedule a live web demonstration to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. Sidelineinteractive.com. Welcome back to the Educational AD Podcast. Shawn, you and I already talked about this. You know, you're wrapping up your term as the president for the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association, also known as WADA. Share, if you can, we have a lot of young listeners, young ADs, that I think haven't yet gotten involved at the state level, let alone national. So talk a little bit about how you first got involved at the state level, and then, of course, the journey you've been on.
So in 2008 is when I became an athletic director, and was told by numerous people, hey, you got to become part of this association, which I didn't dispute or anything, but being involved with the Physical Education Association, as well as the Wrestling Coach Association, I knew that professional development, that professional membership was important because of just that interaction with those that are like-minded and doing the same things you are. So I got involved with just being a member of WADA in, like I said, 2008. And for about the first 10 years, it was just, you know, a member, being at the conference every year, being a part of those conversations, whether it be within a mini session or just in the hallways in between sessions, or, you know, at the bowling party on Monday night, whatever it might be. And there was a moment where the current District 3, which is a district, there's 7 districts in Wisconsin, and Bob Sanders wasn't able to be the district rep because of the fact that he was moving from high school down to middle school, and you have to be a high school athletic director to be the district rep. And the conversation was had, and someone threw out my name as, hey, Shawn, would you be interested in becoming the district rep? And I'm like, I'm not opposed to it. I mean, if someone's going to nominate me and someone's going to second it, we vote on it, and I win, that's fine by me. It was kind of like I mean, if needed to happen, sure, I'll step up and do it. And that's what happened. There was one nomination, it was me, and of course they seconded it, and then I win the unanimous ballot. And I would say that was like 2000. Gosh, it must have been 2017. Because then I was up on the stage for the WADA conference, and we were having a dinner up there. I don't know if it was Tuesday to wrap up luncheon or whatever it was. And the person right next to me was Nathan Delaney, is the athletic director at Marshfield. He is the past president of WADA, because he was president last year, and actually the year before too, but that's a long story. And I remember him sitting down after he was elected to vice president, and he sat down, and I said, hey, congratulations and all that. And I remember turning right to him and saying, I have no plans on doing that. And he kind of looked like, why not? I'm like, I just don't have those plans. Now, that wasn't a shot at becoming this leadership role, but it was more of, I'm not really a goal-oriented person. I don't write my goals down. Like everyone always tells you got to write your goals down. I'm more of here's my focus and there's where I'm going. For example, I got the John Gordon one word, right? Like it's sitting on my desk right there. You know, the goal for this year, I'm listening. I want to hear what you got. How can I help? And so that was November. It was probably the middle of July where he, along with another past president, Jeremy Schlitz from Madison, pulled me down to go for a golf outing one day. And before the 4 hours was over, they had convinced me that I'm going to run for vice president of WADA the next year. And it wasn't like they were convincing me. It was almost, again, it was that you could be good. And going back to FP Markel, where it wasn't, I wasn't thinking about it and wasn't really worried about it, but it was more of, yeah, you could do this. Yeah, you got this. Um, and then in I don't know, probably September, I put my name in the hat, and then came to the conference in November, and I ran for vice president unopposed. So again, winning on a unanimous ballot. Um, so I'm pretty successful at that. Maybe if you get into politics after that. I doubt there'd be unopposed though. Um, so I get into, being on the board, not really paying attention. So I was gendered up for a year, and I sat at the table and just kind of learned my ropes there. But then all of a sudden now, okay, now you're vice president. Now you better be, dotting your I's, crossing your T's type stuff. And really enlightening. Not that it was so much more, so different than I thought, just the amount of professional growth during that time frame to really see how people do their job, and how they manage the job within their district, but then also serving the WADA membership, and then how gratifying that is as well, putting together the conference. Because in Wisconsin, as a vice president, you take care of the presiders or moderators for our mini sessions. Then as the president-elect, you're taking care of the presenters of the mini sessions. And then when you're the president, you have the schedule of the conference, 2.5 days. You get the keynotes, all of those things. And then as the past president, you're just kind of there for your expertise because you've gone through it. And in those progressions, my journey also threw another year in there because the whole COVID year, we didn't have an election to bring someone new on. We just held the position for 2 years. And what that turned into is, for instead of me being on the board for, the 4 years, it became 5+. So a lot of time serving the membership, and really that's all it's about, getting the job done, right? Make sure that we, have the best conference possible, and then, be there for our athletic directors with any kind of questions that they may have. This year in Wisconsin, not that Florida heard about it, but I know Florida's been dealing with it. We put to a vote just about a month ago to Wisconsin to add NIL to high school sports. And I saw this coming for about the last year and a half, that it was going to come to a vote, that we're going to think about adding it. Because right now, as a student athlete in Wisconsin, there's really nothing you can do. You can maybe receive something worth $100 for, and that's about it. And with NIL, brought in Dr. Scott Grant to talk about NIL, the pros and cons, at our conference in November. It was well received by our membership. And then in April, the last Wednesday in April, it came to a vote, and the vote failed. And of course, I'm not going to remember what it was, but it was about 40 to 60%. And there was a lot of conversation with the members going into that vote of, well, I'm not sure exactly what we're doing, so I got to make sure that, I'm educated, because a vote here and a vote yes or a vote no is going to be very, impactful in impact a lot of lives, because of the fact that, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, it's going to change the way we do things in Wisconsin. So it did get shot down, and now we've been working on trying to get, some educational settings up. Why did it get shot down? Well, if you thought it was a bad thing, that's okay. What was it that didn't allow you to say yes to the vote? So really leading into that, we did a lot of workshops, not outside the conference as well, a lot of statewide Zooms to make sure everyone had their education, as much education on the topic as possible. And knowing that, okay, if it goes down, that's fine, but we got to keep people happy, and we know it's going to come back again. So now we've already started the process to start the conversation of, okay, why did it fail, and how do we go moving forward, without trying to say, well, we have to pass it. But we do kind of believe that if we don't do anything, that there's probably be some state legislatures that start knocking on the door saying, this is going to come either through you guys or from us. So that's been I'll say that's been the driving force ever since pretty much November, of serving WADA right now, to make sure that our members are as engaged and informed on that topic as possible.
Boy, I really appreciate you, detailing that journey from that first time, hey, we need somebody. Are you interested? And it's amazing how many times that turns into that long and productive relationship. Very cool stuff. Real quick on the NIL in Wisconsin, anything um, anything unique from your perspective about the Wisconsin NIL, maybe compared to some of the other states? Because I think I just read this morning, I think 28 states currently have or allow NIL. Some don't have anything specific, some don't allow it, but I think there's 28 that do allow it. Anything for Wisconsin that you'd like to share real quick?
I I'm just going off of the numbers that I keep hearing. I've heard that there are 38 states in the US that already allow something to pretty much everything. And then there's about another six that are currently looking at it. So, I mean, it's in the Midwest, we're surrounded. Everyone around us, around Wisconsin, has it. For us, it was just a matter of there's just a couple questions that we needed answered. And I'm not going to get into the weeds, but it's just if our state association answers a few questions, I think it's coming back next year in April and the membership's going to pass it. Just because of the opportunity is there. It's just a matter of what are the guidelines. I know a lot of people were worried about, oh, it's going to turn into the college. Well, college is completely different because and needless to say, you have the collectives part of it, which wouldn't be allowed in Wisconsin. But then there's also the whole transfer portal, and a lot of people think that that would happen. And I know in Wisconsin, we have absolutely no interest in letting students to go from school to school to school to school. So, and we have policies in place that wouldn't allow that. So,
Well,
yeah, just a hot
uh,
button topic.
a cautionary tale, if you will. In Florida, our state association considered some options this summer, ended up tabling it. So, we still have, that old rule, if you will, of amateurism. But Florida has one thing that I'm not aware of any other state that has this, and it's not a state association rule. It's actually a law that our state government, our legislators passed several years ago. We have the transfer portal. A kid can go to any school they want to in the fall, play football or volleyball. At the end of that season, they can transfer to a second school, play a winter sport at that school. And at the end of that season, they can transfer to a third school and play another sport. And so we have concerns in Florida from an NIL that, maybe I know this would never happen in Wisconsin, that a booster or a parent or a collective, if you will, would say, hey, why don't you bring your talents to our school and we'll have this NIL deal for you. So that's a concern in Florida, and it should be a concern in any state too. But Shawn, this has been very cool spending some time with you, hearing about your program in Wisconsin. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with the athletic director's toolbox. So we're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsored this segment. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on the very first job, but I'm only going to let you put 3 items in their toolbox. So let's take this break. And when we come back, we're going to see what Shawn Groshek is going to put in his new athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to say thank you to Athletic Surveys, who sponsor the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic surveys are about connections, and they're going to connect you to a group that you probably already hear from, the complainers, the people that want to gripe about everything. But that's really only a small percentage. Athletic surveys will also connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that love and care about your program. And the information that you get from these surveys is incredibly valuable, especially when you're talking with a frustrated parent or maybe a student athlete, or how about your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Shawn Groshek. He is the director of athletics at Adams Friendship High School in Friendship, Wisconsin. Tremendous background in athletics, also the president of the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association. But right now, I'm going to challenge him to send out a brand new AD on their very first job, but I'm only going to let him put 3 things in the toolbox. So, Shawn, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Well, it's a little tough just because of the fact that you have to be supportive. Supported. And for me, it always started at home. I have a saint of a wife, whether it was coaching, whether it was then coaching for 16 years, but then halfway into that career, becoming an athletic director as well. So for 8 years there, right when we're starting a family, I'm a athletic director, head wrestling coach, and I have newborns at home. And those of you that are listening, you know just how hectic that can get. So you need to have a supportive partner. If you're single, that's one thing. You only have to answer for yourself. But you got to have that supportive partner. You got to have that conversation. Lay out that calendar per week or however you're going to do it, to make sure, because of the fact that you need to make sure that he or she is knows that you do care, because it's going to seem like all your efforts go into these kids and these coaches, and if you don't give that time to that partner of yours, unfortunately, it can end bad in many different ways. So making sure you have that supportive partner and that communication with them. That'd be the first one, absolutely first and foremost. Secondly, I say it to really any new athletic director that's willing to listen, specifically ever since I've been on the WADA board. You're going to get into this job and you think that you are an island. No one understands what you're doing, the time, the effort, the loss of sleep because of X, Y, and Z. You're not an island. You might be an island within your district, but there are hundreds and thousands of us out there that understand what you're going through. Find that connection with, maybe it's the neighboring school's AD, maybe it's someone at the state conference, maybe it's someone at the national conference, to where you can have the conversation and just say, hey, I'm going through this right now. And it doesn't have to be professional. It could be a personal thing. Everyone's been there, whether it's, the husband or the wife that's nagging on you because you're never home. Maybe it's the kids, that you're missing something, those things, or it's the professional side where I got this coach and they just don't see it this way, and there's something that are missing. How can you help me out? Those connections to be able to make us so that you are able to island hop, get off your own island and see that, you know what, that person over there doesn't have it that great, or they have it worse than you. It really humbles you and brings you down. It helps you be able to relieve those stresses. I remember that first year, I never felt like I was drowning, but it felt like, okay, I'm doing all this stuff. I'm doing a lot of management stuff, but I'm not really making an impact. I'm not making it, a transformational impact on our student athletes, because all I'm doing is scheduling buses, scheduling the events, scheduling the workers, and ordering, supplies, of course. But the connections with those people, whether it's a 10-minute phone call on the way home, or maybe it's a 10-minute phone call on break, when you don't get a break as an athletic director during the afternoon, just to be able to verbalize any stresses that you have. It's a life. I truly believe it's a lifesaver. I really do. So first off, like I said, supportive partner. Second of all, you're not an island. Have that connection with fellow athletic directors, because we understand, we know where you're coming from. And then I'd say last but not least, I mean, when it comes to something tangible, every single Friday morning at 8 a.m., I have an email that goes out to every single school official and worker that we're going to be playing the next week. And all it is, it's my last quadruple double check to make sure I have everything ready for the next week. And everyone's like, well, why do you do that? You have it, like in Wisconsin, we use Our School Today. Everything's on Our School. Well, it is until it isn't, right? And specifically when it comes to the spring, with so many different moving parts, It is amazing how many times I've saved my job, probably, sending that email out on Friday morning and a fellow athletic director saying, "Hey, I thought we were going to start that game at 5, not 4:30," or an official, "Hey, I remember 2 months ago we changed that day, or we changed it, and I can't make it, and so and so is coming," or "You said you were going to get somebody," or unfortunately, when one of your workers is out on family leave because someone passed or someone's in the hospital, and it's, "Hey, FYI, remember, I can't be there," and it's like those are the little things that just keep you from running around rampant, because of the fact that, again, it's that last quadruple double check to make sure that all of the things for next week, which is a solid 7 days away, that that the next 7 days are good. Now, of course, in the spring, you get rainouts and it changes for tonight to tomorrow and all that stuff. But at least it gets you on that pathway of things are scheduled, that we have it all taken care of. And when I lay down tonight, I don't have to worry about, oh, is this person going to show? Oh, wait, did that change? And to me, I've been doing that now for probably, I bet you it's been a dozen years, and man, do I sleep well at night, knowing that at least that stuff is covered, because I don't have secretarial help, and then like tomorrow I'll be teaching all day versus sitting in my office. And you just don't have that time to do it when you're, whether you're teaching or maybe you're an assistant principal and you're just dealing with discipline all day long. But those three things: absolutely supportive partner, the connections. You're not an island. You are within the district, but not within the realm of the athletic director. And like I said, that weekly email that goes out to every single person that we're going to come in contact with next week, to just know without a doubt that you have everything scheduled.
Boy, great tools. And I know everyone that's been on the podcast and throughout our profession, everybody appreciates very dearly that spouse, that partner, etc. But it's amazing we haven't had that mentioned as a top three toolbox tool in I think maybe a year and a half. So good for you. So for mentioning
Jake,
that.
and I'll take it one farther, Jake. I know it's that important, and I made it that important because every year as president, the president gives out a president's award.
Mhm.
And I'll give you one guess who I awarded my president's award to. My
Good for
wife.
you.
Absolutely. I had to, because I'm telling you, there were times where I'm like, man, this ain't going down the right direction, and this next week doesn't look good either. So that it's the utmost importance, because
Yeah.
what's more important than family?
No,
I got God.
absolutely. Yeah.
I got God, but that's about it.
Absolutely. Well played, sir. And your other tools. I love your expression that you are not an island, because it can feel that way. Teachers have other teachers, even coaches have other coaches. There's very rarely another AD in that building, but they are out there. Build your network. Great stuff.
Yeah, and
And then go,
we have a
go
new
ahead.
teacher. We have a new teachers, or sorry, new athletic director workshop in Stevens Point at the WIA office every July. And there was about 70 of them in there this year. And as I gave my 20-minute speech to them, I just said, "You're not an island." I said, "There's really only about 1,000 people in the state of Wisconsin that know what you're about to embark on. Those 1,000 people, if you find one of them to be able to reach out to and have a conversation with, will be able to help you get through it better. And if you reach 2 or 3 or 4 of them, it will drastically decrease your stress level. They're not going to do your job for you, but they will definitely be able to point in the right direction to keep you away from that spinning wheel of death on your computer, which is actually between your ears." So
Well, to that point, if there if there's an interest, I would love to donate athletic director toolbox books to those new ADs for your summer conference. So if you're interested, just let me know. We'll get those in the mail.
absolutely appreciate it.
Shawn, one more time. If one of our listeners wanted to connect, what's the best way they can get a hold of you and add you to their network so they're not on an island?
Absolutely. Again, I'll give you my email address. It's S as in Shawn Groshek, Groshek 9, the number 9, at gmail.com. And if they've been listening this long, I wouldn't mind having a phone call with them. I'm going to give out my cell number, 715-340-7410. if you've listened this long, there has to be some sort of an interest to hear more or have more questions. So feel free to reach out. And again, like I said, I have a podcast myself, Wisconsin Grown, nationally known. It's on Apple and Spotify. Go ahead and take a listen. You might gather some more information from there. Heck, it might even pique your interest to maybe even join me sometime. I have no problems with that. But yeah, I as serving as president of WADA, it has given me great pleasure and service to be able to help out those ADs in need. It is unreal, the amount of gratitude, absolute gratitude that I feel when we get through those tough situations. I've been through them myself. Hey, I'm willing to help in any way I can. You know, if you're going through something, let's hammer it out. You know, maybe you're in Idaho. Guess what? We do things in Wisconsin too that doesn't necessarily always go the same way. But we can, work things to work through. And sometimes it's just verbalizing it, just actually saying it out loud of what the problem is, sparks something in the brain to be able to think, wow, this could work. So whether it's a sounding board or more information, questions, answers, whatever it is, I'm there for any and all that are interested.
Well, we appreciate you sharing some time with our listeners today. All the best as we move forward to wrap up spring sports in Wisconsin and across the country. And going to be looking forward to seeing you and connecting in person this coming December in Austin.
Absolutely. I can't wait. I won't be getting there till a little bit later. I host a pretty big wrestling tournament on Friday and Saturday that week, but I'll be down there Saturday night, Sunday morning. So
all right. Well, we'll definitely make plans to connect. For listeners, we appreciate you tuning in and just want to remind you that we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day with interviews and best practices. So please come back for the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll see you next time.